Hi everyone, James here from F9, and I cannot tell you how pleased I am to announce that we have converted the F9 Origins Classic Club Keys and Synths collection to Kontakt. Let's not waste any more time and dive straight in. So as you can hear, already sounding amazing coming out of the audio engine of Kontakt. And if I have a quick scan down here on the plugins, you'll see that I've really just got some EQs, some little effects. There's not much going on, a little bit of side chaining in places. So this is how good these sounds are straight out of the box. Now let me run you through the GUI controls, and I've picked this sound. It's a lead sound called Da Lead. And this particular set of GUI controls you'll have on some lead sounds and the bass, and it starts with a glide control, and that will do what it says on the tin. So if I turn this up and actually play legato, in other words overlap the notes as I'm playing them, you'll hear it bend. But if I actually give a little gap in between the notes I'm playing, it will re-trigger each time. And you can set that to quite extreme levels, which on lead sounds is great for enormous rises. Same with bass sounds. But those are obviously quite special cases, and normally the rest of the pack will have attack and release controls at the top, and they should be fairly self-explanatory. Here's if I would dial up some attack on the organ sound, and then increase the release, and then bring them all the way back down again. Next two controls, we've got a stereo delay effect and a hall reverb. Let me show you those quickly. And that's been set to emulate some of the delays that were in use, like the Alesis Quadriverb in the 90s that had a very famous ping-pong delay and was literally all over 90s house. Now, pretty much every studio in the 90s had either a Lexicon unit in there or a Yamaha SPX unit. And the whole reverb here is emulating the atmosphere of some of those. Let me show you those actually in operation. Moving on, let's have a look at the drive. This is a patch called Dirty Fifth. You can hear all those extra harmonics being generated there. Now the stereo control, if you leave it in the center position, it won't touch the sound, but if you bring it to the left, it will start to monoize it. And you turn it to the right, past the center point, then it will really start to widen the sound out. And you get into special effects territory there. And the final section of the GUI deals with two filters. First of all, a high pass filter and then a low pass filter. And all of the GUI controls are assigned to parameters within Kontakt, or host automation parameters, I should say, within Kontakt. That means you can easily pick them up and start automating as I've done here. And as you can see with this piano part, I've got a low pass filter rise just coming that. So in other words, very dull and then brightens up here. And then a high pass filter rise at the back end of this. Some strings coming in later on and the bass filtering down. Let's have a listen. Now, we don't encode these libraries for Kontakt Player, and there's a very good reason. It will push the price point to more than double what it actually is, and sometimes we don't think that's actually fair. One of the things that does mean, though, is that we're not going to be using the Libraries tab that you may be used to in the left-hand side. So we always suggest setting up Quick Load, which can be accessed using this little button here. And as you can see, we've already got it set up. There's the quick load menu at the bottom. You can fill this with whatever you want. So it's a great way of customizing your own Kontakt library. Here you can see the origin keys and synths, and I can just pick stuff up and put it straight into the rack there. We actually have a full tutorial about how to set up quick load on the F9 tutorial page. And if you like the sound of the drums that are on this demo, they're from this release, our F9 Origins Classic House Beats, Stems and Kits. 24 separate stem sets of classic house style drums that are made using hardware machines, including the legendary SP1200 and MPC 3000. So that's the core functionality of this Kontakt library. Don't forget, at any point you can hit the spanner icon and dig right into the sounds and actually start to alter things. What you may want to do is make sure you have edit all groups on, because we're using a lot of round robin sampling, particularly on the analog source material, and then you can add additional effects and just go to town as you would in any other Kontakt patch. We have kept the scripting open if you want to have a look at what's actually going on in the background there, as I know some of you like to tweak. But I think the best thing for me to do now is stop talking and play you some of the amazing patches from this 333 patch collection for Kontakt. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.